Thanks for joining me on this.
No problem.
I'm seeing this talk today as kind of something similar, just to be able to learn more about your pain points, your challenges, the things you face, both from like your department, but also across organizations. Um, so let's do it.
Sure.
You want to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Michelle Khedar, and I'm the senior corporate law clerk. Well, one of them. We just hired another one at Fengate Capital Management Ltd.
What's really interesting about your firm is that you work across private equity and infrastructure and real estate. And you're overseeing the entity management for all of those. So I think my first question would be, do you feel that within those different vectors or sectors, you're addressing different challenges in terms of entity management or collaboration or anything around compliance in that sense?
We do, because each of our units is set up differently. How we form them from start to finish, the instructions we're given. Every business unit is different. So when we get instructions, we can't treat one formation or one company the same as the rest of them, right? So that's a bit of a challenge, but we've been doing it for a while now that we are used to it. We know what to look for. But with the Athennian, it makes it easier to track the different, because there's so many different companies, jurisdictions, directors, officers, different compliance stuff we have to track. And with the Athennian, getting that technology, that really helped a lot, to just have everything in one place, source of truth, one place where we can just find everything, maintain everything.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So we are seeing a thing in this source of truth, right? We've been talking a lot about the different sources of truth, and it is everything that we're trying to fix. How do you feel that it is helping you like figure out the true source of truth, right? I know there's a lot of spreadsheets going around. There's your own structure charts. How do you kind of like, is that your team managing it? How do you feel?
It is our team now. We have struggled in the sense where things are saved in SharePoint, some person OneDrive, Outlook. So we had physical minute books as well. So with all that, we kind of consolidated it all in Athennian, so we know everything's in Athennian. So we just got that done last year. So now our next step is to actually verify everything in Athennian is correct and matches our finances records, our tax records. So that's our part 2 of the project. But for the most part, the first part we push everything in Athennian, uploaded everything, data input everything. So it's all in that one area instead of looking at these different folders, Outlooks, emails to find, okay, who's a shareholder of this company? No, there was a transaction, right? In 2022, right? I don't think that's the correct shareholder. So
that's great. So that's one, your one source of truth, and you know that it's there. Your validation, is that for like internal audits that you're talking about doing, or?
So our validation is when we form entities, we kind of do a structure chart. Our deals team from the beginning, when they're making the bid for that deal, they kind of do a structure chart of all the entities that are involved. And basically from that, we have to form the entities, and then we maintain the entities. But sometimes there's deals in between where they sold shares of this company, and they had a shareholder came in, but our records weren't really updated. So we kind of review those org charts to make sure, okay, was this documented in our legal books? Is Athennian up to date? So that's what I meant by part 2, just to verify the org charts and the information from finance and our accountants is the same. Because we do struggle here or there with our deals team doing transactions without involving some of us legal folks. So then when something happens or a transaction occurs, we have to scramble, and we're like, our records don't match what you're saying, right? So we have to scramble to fix that. But we've gotten better on that. We've gotten better. We got processes, and now that we have Athennian in place, they our deals team and our finance team actually have read-only access to Athennian, so they can look as well and verify. So we've gotten better, but there's still improvement there.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been hearing this across the board from, especially kind of like our private equity clients about how probably before, you had the one of the truth, a lot of the entities kind of like fell between the cracks, right? Because they were missed transactions or missed entities. Can you share like one of those, like an instance of an oops moment or an almost oops moment where something like that occurred, and what were the, implications of it?
I probably would say our most common, not that it all happens often, is our LPs. Like if there was a transaction going on, and counsel trying to pull a certificate of status or verify the status of it. Sometimes when they do pull that, they realize the LP has expired, right? And of course, because we had our old school way of tracking compliance was in Outlook, and now that we have Athennian, we're slowly putting in the expiry dates in Athennian. So I would probably say that's a common one. Now before Athennian, and now that we're slowly developing Athennian, I that's probably a common one where there's a transaction going on. We realize LP expired, we got to scramble to renew it. And then from there, we make sure a tickler is set in Athennian to track the expiry date.
And that becomes your one zero truth, and then the investor relations with the finance team can come in and see the most up-to-date status. So in a sense, Athennian now provides you kind of like what I'm hearing, and actually that gets into my next question about, so this, essentially you can do that cross-department collaboration through Athennian. Okay, so that's really interesting. So you feel that has made a clear difference in your maybe perhaps governance efficiency, or?
It definitely has. There's better communication. Before Athennian, we would have our finance people ask, okay, who can sign on sign on behalf of this company? Now they can actually go and look who can sign, or do you guys have the business number yet for this entity? They can actually go into Athennian and look up the business number if it's there ready. So little things like that, the download in virtual documents from the virtual minute book, they can go straight into that and get what they need. So it's cut down a lot on email traffic, and it's just made everything more efficient between the departments and the teams.
Probably less friction, I would assume. And I would think about it this way.
Yes, and not a lot of, okay, why don't you have this, right? Okay. Or you should have this. At least it's all in that one area, and they can look at it in Athennian.
That's really great to hear, again, from the product side. I guess just to probably learn more about you and your team and how you still work, can you share any perhaps key operational efficiencies that there are still today in the compliance and legal team, and how we would approach them?
In terms of compliance needs, I think because we just got our database developed last year fully, we're slowly trying to get our compliance up and running, and the little we've put into Athennian, it's been great. But there's other areas where we've got to think about, okay, how do we track agreements, contracts, things like that, right? So there is work there that we need to think about of how we could use Athennian for. Now what we've started on is actual compliance, like for our annual compliance, our annual resolutions, our annual returns, U.S. annual returns as well. So mostly that we started on right now, but we still have bigger strides to look at down the road and figure out how we monitor and track these things.
Reporting and compliance and filings that you need to do on a cadence, is this kind of like the biggest challenges, or is it like, I don't know, having so many different jurisdictions that you would need to track? Where do you feel like the biggest pain point is today for your team?
Because we have so many jurisdictions and so many, like some of our companies are registered in other jurisdictions as well. Council, who's the council, right? The like council from 2029 is that the same council today? Like, so I think tracking the multiples of jurisdictions, because every jurisdiction is different, especially U.S. At least we're familiar with Ontario and Canada, but we
Mhm.
have a lot of U.S. entities as well, and just track and figure out what's our obligations there, what do we have to track, right? That that's that's something we've struggled with in the past, and we're slowly trying to figure out ways to track that, right? Because we do have outside counsel in some of those jurisdictions, but you can't necessarily rely on them all the time, right? They're mostly there for the deal and the transaction, and then once that's done, we kind of take over the companies internally, and then we monitor them, maintain them, and make changes if need be, unless it's part of a bigger transaction.
So your team is essentially probably the legal experts on everything compliance in those jurisdictions, right?
Yes.
You're mostly relying on your internal knowledge.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a lot.
So it's a lot, but we've learned a lot through it all too. Like I never knew was familiar with U.S. The Delaware. We have a few Delaware entities. Was never familiar with Delaware legislation. Now I am, right? So it's good in that sense where you're learning stuff, but it's also a hurdle in the beginning because you're trying to figure out, okay, this is completely different than Ontario. What do we look at? What do we track, right? What should be on our radar?
So I guess this is a great level probably for the next question, as we're looking into 2026. For compliance teams, for legal teams, for collaboration with the broader organizations, and as we go deeper into governance, I think the question is, given the AI stage, this day and age, what skills do you feel are becoming more essential for managers in this space? For you, for your peers?
I'd probably say communication is probably big. Like if you can't communicate, whether it's a policy, whether it's just in general to your employees, your coworkers, leadership, then that's a problem, right? You really need to know how to communicate and how to convey your ideas, even receiving feedback too, right? Being receptive to feedback. So I'd probably say communication is really key, and just organizational accountability, like reliability, knowing as an employee, knowing that you can rely on your manager or the company to be transparent, hold you accountable, hold them accountable, right? I think that's key as well, and I just think just having clear laid out policies and procedures, and employees know what they need to do, companies know what they need to do as a manager, as a board of directors, they know who they need to be accountable to, and what they need to be accountable for, right? Sometimes people don't really know what their role fully entails, right? Yeah, I think those are probably key, and just strong, like even as a manager or a team lead, strong leadership skills, right? Like you want someone as an employee, someone that they can look up to, that they can go to be mentored, train, even to grow their knowledge and expertise, right? I think that's even leadership, just being approachable as well.
How are you guys dealing with the AI today? Are you open with an open appetite to adding more Gen AI technologies, agents to kind of like change your the way you approach entity management?
We haven't really dig deep into AI. I know it's out there and it's not going away, but we're not hesitant to it. We just haven't really looked into it and dug deep in how it could help us, right? But it is something on on Fengate's roadmap for the next couple of years to actually start looking at and seeing what our technology platforms we have already have to offer, and what's coming out there in the future. So it is on our radar. We just haven't actively used it yet, and dug deep in it. It's on our radar.
I have to say it's on our roadmap as well. So we already have a lot of AI solutions, and it's definitely on our next 6-month radar. So I'm happy to take this offline and show you what it is that we're planning, and maybe that can be part of how that could be part of your plans. I'm interested in hearing probably more about, we talk so much about governance at scale, right? We are very kind of like focused in many ways on the compliance and legal space, but also how, your team is interacting with the different teams. And it's so much even more, work with all type of corporations, but what is really close to my heart is, again, private equity infrastructure. The deal team, the finance, the back office versus, we're in the front, the investor relations is huge. What do you wish for yourself in this ecosystem for government? Like, where do you want compliance and legal to be positioned?
That's a good question. Only because we've had situations in the past where there's deals going on that we don't really get pulled into till the end. So as legal as a whole, I think it's just, and I'm talking about us clerks, the lawyers are involved in the deal from day one, but just as us clerks, just because our minute book records, keeping them up to date, not wait until there's a transaction, realize something missing and doesn't jive, right? I think for us law clerks, just from the beginning, from when the deal is happening, and just seeing it straight through to then, instead of us just getting involved in the formation part and then we taking it and running with it and maintaining it. So yeah, I'd probably say from the beginning, just because that will make the whole, everything will flow better. If I use that word, everything will flow better. And the trouble with that is we do have legal counsel on some of our deals, so that's why we sometimes don't get involved. If I say that, that's why. So we usually get involved towards the end. So it just interacting with outside counsel and our deals team from the beginning would probably be where
getting visibility so things don't fall between the cracks.
Yes.
Okay. Visibility in every stage. That's a super interesting takeaway from me, I have to say, as product. Like, how do I ensure that we provide you the tools to have visibility across from the day? How do we take Athennian also to that? And we already have some tools in place, right, about different types of access, but really trying to understand from when the deal was signed, how do we get it through the finish line? And the finish line is just a starting point, right, for then tracking and compliance, and that's probably what's really interesting to hear here. This, the end point for those teams are just a big, this is what the real deal starts in a sense.
Yes, yeah, and for us, it's from day one, right? So we've gotten a bit better from it, but it just, we need to work on, and I'm not saying we need, we're not part of every step, right? But at least, for example, copying us on the email from day one, at least, right, we see the bigger picture and the train of everything going on, and get pulled, and we jump in when we need to, right? So I think that's where I want us to be soon.
That's a wonderful takeaway. Really, I can say personally for me to where I'm also thinking about, where Athennian is heading to 2026. So anything else you'd like to share in with me just in this?
We've made good strides since we got Athennian. We were, as I said, we struggled a lot before Athennian because just of the state of our records, right? But since we've got an Athennian, we've implemented a lot of procedures and policies with Athennian that have helped us as a legal team grow and just and Fengate as a whole, and it's just helped our daily work be more efficient, right? We still have ways to go? Yeah, we do. We still have things to figure out of how we track stuff and bring things up to date. But from where we were like a year ago, we've made some good strides, and part of it has to do with Athennian, right? We have that one source of truth now.
That's really great, Michelle. Thank you so much for this.